Hey, welcome. Hello, welcome. Thank you for clicking on this video. We're here at the Indianapolis Public Library. We decided to have this presentation about Discover Camping, Camping 101. All three of us are librarians at Central who love to camp. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce Sherry Utterback, one of my colleagues here, to get started in talking about why we decided to do this program.
Camping has been a very popular activity for years and years, but many more people have begun camping since COVID. They find that it's a way that they can go out, maintain social distancing, get in touch with nature, get in touch with their families. I have been camping since I was 7 years old with my family, so I've been camping a long time. My parents decided that we were either going to take up camping or we were going to take up bowling. And I have always been glad that we did take up camping. So let me introduce the third member of our group, Leah Kim. She's also a librarian here at Central.
Yeah, now I didn't grow up camping like you did, Sherry. I wish I would have, but I actually started camping when I was probably close to 30, and I had a desk job where I was on a computer all day, and we decided to kind of get out for the weekend away from work, and we'd never camped before, so we bought a tent and a cooler and decided if we didn't like it, we probably would break even on the supplies that we did buy for that one weekend, but we loved it. So we've been camping close to 20 years. What about you, Carrie?
Yeah, I'm Carrie, and I started camping when I met my husband, actually, which was over 20 years ago. And he already had a lot of the stuff. Some of it we still use today. And he had kind of gotten me into it, which is great, which I love. We never camped when I was kids. My mom hated it because she went camping once and got rained on and was mad about it. So, so as a child, it was not a recommended activity. But now I'm really glad we do. So let's go ahead and go over what we're going to talk about today briefly. We're going to talk about the different types of camping, why we camp, different types of places to camp, the different types of gear and supplies that are important, lists our setting up the campsite, and then we'll talk about camping activities, camping with kids, camping with pets, and then we'll share some ways to get to some library resources for everyone so that you can come and explore all the great things we have here at the library. Okay, so first we're going to talk about what is camping. A lot of people, when they think about camping, think about just the roughing it, dispersed camping, basically going out in the woods and finding, a place to set up camp and creating your own fire circle, and we're not really going to talk about that today. That's for a more advanced camper. And there's not a lot of places around. I think in Hoosier National Forest, you can do that, but not a lot of other places around here that you do that type of camping. There's also backpacking, which is another thing we're going to not talk about today. That's another type of more advanced camping. Usually people will do that if they're like through hiking the Appalachian Trail. You carry everything with you on your back. So we're not really going to talk about those two things today.
We are probably a little bit more about tent camping or car camping. And I think as a kid, I had this impression that camping was roughing it, that there was you just found a spot in the woods and you were kind of on your own. But actually with national parks and state parks, it's very easy to drive in, reserve a campsite, and you can bring a lot of those items in your car. And so you're using your car for all of the things that you're going to need. So this is actually a picture on this slide of my family camping. I think this is at Brown County a couple of years ago, but it's definitely we've got a cooler with food and a tent and chairs. And so we have access to the state park bathrooms. So it's not like you're really roughing it. There are showers. It's a little bit different than I think what I originally thought when I was a kid.
Okay.
Sarah, do you want to talk about our?
Sure. An RV camper, that is where you just kind of bring your house with you. I have got a high wall pop-up and it's got a lot of nice amenities in it. Mine has a bathroom in it, a furnace, an air conditioner, running water. So it's even got an oven in it, a stove inside and out. So I don't really do the roughing it type of camping. And some people might say it's not really camping at all, but when you open up those windows, yeah, you're out there, you're camping. The last kind of camping is glamping, which is becoming more and more popular. And people will make reservations. It's almost like a resort type of experience when you go glamping. And many of these places have tents of some type, usually a larger tent with rugs and pillows and everything set up for you. So it's a much softer experience than camping as we know it in Indiana.
Carrie, maybe you want to talk about that picture in the top of our slide here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So up here is an experience my husband and I had with a device called a Habitent, which is made specifically for Priuses. When we were on our way to visit family in Montana just a couple weeks ago, we decided to stop at a KOA and sleep in the back of our car with a little queen size air mattress back there. I think it would be great for two smaller people or without a dog. It was a bit crowded, but we wanted to give it a shot, and it did work out for the day. But we got a hotel room on the way back. But it was a nice campsite and a fun and interesting experience for sure. Okay. So let's all talk about a reason why we like to go camping. Personally, I like going camping. I like spending quality time with my husband outdoors. We like to, do all the camping type activities together. We like to unplug and play games together, which we're not usually going to do, at home as much as we would like to. And also I like being able to travel, but also having all my own stuff. So it's like, I have my own sheets. I'm not using sheets that 1,000 other people have slept in, if any bugs are outdoor bugs, not bed bugs. So that's another reason.
I think the main reason when I started camping was just to get away from a computer, staring at a computer all day and being able to unplug. Now it's like even worse with devices. So it's just a chance to be with nature. I love hiking, but I also just like being among the trees. There's definitely health benefits to, some people say more oxygen and more improved mood with some of the chemicals that trees release naturally. So it always feels good after you spend a weekend outdoors.
Yes.
What about you, Jerry?
I just love getting away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life to get out into the woods, and you can just basically listen to the quiet. And it's wonderful. One of the places I go camping in the evening, the deer will walk through a little valley that's below the campsite. And that is it's just a wonderful thing. You can see deer in many situations, but somehow when you're camping and you're seeing the deer and the wildlife come walking through, that's a completely different experience. My mom's rule when we were growing up, no TV went camping. And back then, in the dark ages, that was all we had was a TV. So I like to go camping to read or to just sit around the fire and relax.
Leah, you had mentioned something your husband said about you're always camping when you're camping.
Oh, right. I think for people that, especially that always feel like they have to be doing something, camping gives you the excuse to just be sitting in your camp chair on your campsite, not doing anything, but because you're out there, you can consider yourself camping. So
I love that.
for somebody that has a hard time slowing down is to feel like you are doing something, even if you're not doing anything at all.
Yeah, I love that. I love Sherry's listening to the quiet. I love that. Okay, so let's talk about some of the places we like to camp. National parks are a great place to camp, especially if you're looking for an experience without a lot of loud parties. You know, I mean, national parks are going to be not regulated necessarily, but there's going to be someone there who makes sure that the rules are followed. You want to check all the rules at all the parks you go to, of course, to make sure that, you know, your dogs are allowed, if outdoor lights are allowed. These are types of things that they will have here on their website that I'm going to show you. One of my favorite places to camp has been at Acadia National Park in Maine on the Schoodic Peninsula. So that's a new campground on some new land that they just recently got. And it's really beautiful. So here you can search for national parks by state and find the camping areas from there. Let's see, let me get back to the slide for Leah.
Now for state parks, I actually haven't camped at one of the national parks yet. I've been to one, but I haven't camped there. I first started going to state parks in Wisconsin, which is where I'm from. So Peninsula State Park, the top of Wisconsin, it was a beautiful place. And what's nice about that is there's reservable campsites that you can have. They've got a camp store, a place to get firewood. There's rentals for canoes, kayaks, even bikes. So that was our first state park that we went to. We moved here to Indiana. Turkey Run is now one of our favorite places to go. We've been to Brown County. So just beautiful places in the state that you can explore. Turkey Run has canoeing in Sugar Creek, but there's amazing trails as well.
Okay, the private campgrounds, they are the third type of campground. KOA is probably the best known of the private campgrounds. And I tend to think of them as a Holiday Inn of campgrounds. You know exactly what you're going to be seeing and what you're going to get before you even get there. Other private campgrounds that I have camped in myself, there is one on Sanibel Island called Periwinkle Way Trailer Park. It's a very nice area, great. It's within walking distance of the beach. Hip Camp is an organization where they have more of the corporate camping areas. Probably my favorite camping area of all though is Disney World. And I love that because I was always the driver. And I would drive, it's 1,000 miles from my front door to Disney's gate. And I was the one who had to drive that 1,000 miles. And by the time I got there, I was done driving. So you back your unit in, you park it, and you're done driving for however long you're there. So for me, that is huge. And you don't have to worry about a campsite that's maybe not level or not having something that you need because it's all right there.
Right. Yeah, and the point Leah made too about the camp stores and stuff at state parks and bathrooms and showers, that same is true at national parks, I forgot to say. A nice place like Disney too. And at the KOAs, I know I stayed at a KOA in my Habitant recently, and it had a lovely bathroom and shower in camp store. So you do get those, but you do find some really fun stuff with some of the private campgrounds too. But you do want to watch out, maybe look at online reviews, because if you want to sleep at night, sometimes some people use campgrounds as a place to go and maybe have a few drinks and be a little bit loud. So you want to make sure you're either going to a place like that, if that's what you want, or not going to a place like that, if you would rather not. So, okay.
So for making reservations, this you're going to want to go to either the National Parks website to find what you're looking for, or for state parks, that's going to be Reserve America. And you're going to need to make a reservation ahead of time, sometimes 6 months ahead of time. Some places that are popular, it might be even a year. Depends on the state, what their regulations are. I know in Wisconsin, they were making reservations a year in advance. So you can always look for cancellations. That's how we actually got our first campsite, is at a very popular time in August. Somebody canceled and we were able to get in for a weekend, and we've loved it ever since. So we tend to make our reservations in the middle of winter when we're thinking about what we're going to do for summer. There are some sites that are walk-up, they're non-reservable. I haven't done this because normally I have to take time off from work if I'm going to be doing like a weekend getaway. But if you have a schedule or you're thinking, oh, I'll just give it a shot, that's another way that you can just drive up and see what's available.
So let's talk about the different things we look for when we're selecting a campsite that's at our campground. You know, you want to think about the different types of things you want or that are important to you. If you look at this picture up here on the top, this was a group campsite right next to Sugar Creek. So we knew we got this beautiful site right next to the creek, which was beautiful, but we also knew that people were going to be cutting through our site, you know, because we had that little path down to the creek. That's okay. That was our trade-off. It was also really far away from the bathrooms. So now, you know, as an older person, older than I was then, I tend to get a campsite that's much closer to the bathroom. So you can usually find a map, you know, online a lot of times, and see which sites are where.
Right. It's always good to look at the Reserve America, for example. You're able to see a picture of the campsite to see if it's shaded or not. And sometimes they will have descriptions, if it's a shaded site, if it's on an incline, if it's going to be near a water pump, there might be people coming to use that water pump, or if it's a bathroom. Sometimes you want to be close, but sometimes you don't want to be too close.
Right.
Sherry, anything specific with RV?
Well, I don't think it's specific for RVs. You do have to watch how level your site is, and you do have to level that RV or your refrigerator will not work, for one. And also, nobody likes the experience of sleeping standing on their head. But one thing that I really look for is how far away from other sites I am, because I just don't, you're going out to get away from people. So I don't want to be camped right up on top of the next guy. And I do try to get a little bit of space between us.
Good point. Yeah, and the double sites or group camping sites, that's what this was. Some places will have specific sites for people that have more than one tent. Okay, so let's talk next about our lists, or your guys' organized people's lists.
Well, we always like to make a list of everything that we're going to need to bring. And our first trip, we brought very few items. Now we really kind of plan our list around kind of chunks. And you can see this is an example of a list that we're starting for a camping trip that we're taking in July. So we're going to think about like the sleep, like what do you need? Your tent, your sleeping bags, your pillows. What are you going to need at night? Your flashlights, your lanterns, batteries. So if you can kind of think about all the different ways you're going to be camping, like if you're hiking, what are you going to need to bring there? A backpack, bug spray, maybe a lot of binoculars if you're going to do some birding. And there are tons of lists that you can get online. If you just type in camping lists, you can see a variety.
REI has a really good one.
Yeah. So, you know, kind of write everything down, and that will help you organize what you need to bring. And then once you go camping, you might start collecting things. And so I'll let Sherry talk about the binder.
Yeah, well, I made up this binder because it's like my methadone to get me through the non-camping times. I just like to sit down sometimes and look at it. I check over my list. I have the list of things I'm going to take. I have my menu lists in there. I have the manuals for everything in there, and various and sundry pieces of information. I have a pocket for the reservations that we have in there. And it's nice, especially in the winter when it's camping so far away, to just sit down and kind of look at that. And you put in things that you have found that work for you. One of the things that has worked well for me is that I have a cake carrier that I put on the table. It's got all of our dishes and tableware in it, of the plates, bowls, cups, knives, forks, and spoons. And I just put that out on the table, and everybody's got what they need to eat.
Very smart. Um, we keep all of our camping supplies in bins and in the same spot, pretty much. And so we just grab them and go. We kind of look through them, but we're probably going to start a list after this because we do sometimes end up not having what we need. But yeah, so we have bins with our camping supplies, our plates and our sporks and butane burners and stuff like that. Yeah, and Leah has a great tip here of the printing out the list.
Yeah, you can do that. You can print out what you'll have in each of those bins. And some things you probably aren't going to keep in the bins. You might need to get them from, your house. So
smart.
I have a big storage bin. It's parked out in the driveway. It's called a camper. So I just
make it easier.
I keep and on my list there is a list of everything to keep in that camper, and I know that I have to go through and check everything before I go out, but at least I know it's all in there.
Right.
It's just a lot easier if you are at least somewhat organized before you go.
right.
So I hear.
I'll mention for storing things, one thing you might want to do is if the device calls for some batteries, take the batteries out. We unfortunately lost a couple of our lanterns because we forgot to do it one year. I think the kids were playing with them during a storm and we ended up having some batteries that exploded. So it kind of ruined the lanterns. We had to replace them. So just make sure to remove them and store them with it.
And make sure to bring plenty of light for your first camping trip. That's something that I think newbie campers don't think about, is lanterns, lights, little hanging lights for your tent. That makes it so much easier. And a lantern rather than just a flashlight or using your phone. You definitely need some lights.
Yeah. And I use headlamps. I got each of us our own headlamp. They had them at Dollar Tree. I get a lot of my camping supplies either at Dollar Tree or at thrift stores, garage sales. You don't have to go out and buy all brand new high price things to go camping. So just try to keep the personal lighting and keep it so that you can be hands-free. I also have little glow sticks for my dogs. And I'll tie those on to their collars at night when we're walking so that they're more visible as well.
Smart. I love that. Okay, let's move on and talk a little bit about camping and food.
All right. So I think before you go camping, you want to write down all of the different meals that you're going to eat while you're away. So if you're leaving on a Friday, and that's going to include Friday dinner, breakfast for Saturday and Sunday, lunch Saturday and Sunday, think of all of your meals and plan accordingly what you're going to, if you're going to cook over the fire, how you're going to do that, or if you're going to pack things more like sandwiches, things that don't require heat. You'll have a cooler that you can pack. So planning out your meals helps create that grocery list. Remember to include snacks because if you're spending all day outside, you're going to be hungrier. And if it's hot, you're going to need to pack extra beverages too. So water and other drinks.
When we camp, my husband and I, that's when we eat our naughty foods. We have chips, we have cheese and crackers. We get local beer and wine. We go out to local restaurants we want to try. So for us, it's a super fun time. We do have a little butane burner that we bring. Hot tip, never store the butane in the butane burner. That's a bad idea. Make sure to take that out when you are finished using it. But yeah, so we use that a lot more than we use the fire. We'll wrap some things in foil and put them in the fire, but we usually, we have a lot of cheese and crackers and, easy meals when we're camping.
Well, what I do, I make things that I know I go camping with my two brothers, And I make things that I know that we all like, family favorites from long ago. And that way I've got a constant menu. I know exactly what I need and I know how to cook this stuff, which I think that's important to have things that are easy to prepare because after all, ladies, it's your trip too.
Yeah, my husband cooks a lot, so he does more of the camp cooking than I do, that's for sure. So, um, okay. All right, let's talk briefly about setting up the campsite. One thing I wanted to mention was to bring a tarp or something to put under your tent that some people don't think about. That keeps a little cushion, but also keeps morning condensation off the bottom of your tent floor. Also, you want to think about maybe having some type of other shelter like we have here. From the sun, if you're not in a shaded area, this one also keeps us safe from bugs if we need it, if we need that down. Also from rain, if it rains, you want to have a space besides just your tent to be able to spend time.
And if you're a beginner camper, you might not have all of these extra devices. So what you can do, and what we actually still do, is we bring extra tarps and rope, and you can hang those up from the trees at a campsite, and you can create a shelter, have that, put your picnic table underneath the tarp, and that gives you shade, but it also gives you protection from the rain. It's kind of a little engineering project if you want to figure out how the rain kind of goes off so it's not getting you wet. That was something my husband liked to do. He really found that enjoyable to figure out how to create the perfect tarp shelter for our picnic table.
Yeah. And I've got an awning that rolls out from the side of the camper. So I'm pretty well set up on that, but it's nice to have, like I said, that little area outside of your sleeping living area to go outside. And one thing that you might not think about if you're a beginning camper is how important it is to scout that campsite. Make sure you're not sleeping on rocks or roots and that the campsite is fairly level for a camper, for a pop-up or an RV. That's important because your refrigerator will not work if you are not on. And there's nothing like going to bed on rocks. I did it once. And we had camped in this place so many times, but we had always gone in Dad's motorhome. And we took a tent one time, and when we laid down, it was like, oh my gosh, I never knew they were here. But we never made the mistake again of not going without air mattresses.
Being prepared is very important, especially when we talk about safety. So talking about fire safety, you want to make sure, especially, in this era of forest fires everywhere, to be very careful setting your fire. Make sure you have a, regulation fire pit and that it's safe for you to have a fire at that point in time. You always want to bring a good first aid kit. You may never need it, but if you do, you will be very glad to have it.
One tip that I'll give you for beginning campers is to make sure not only to have Band-Aids and antibiotic cream or Benadryl cream, some medicine, but also instructions on what to do if you do get a tick bite and how to remove it. There's some instructions that we have. I think the CDC, there's a link to it, one of the resources at the end of this presentation. And I printed out the instructions on how to remove a tick bite, just in case I need it, because you're not sure if you're going to have internet access at some of these state parks. And it's nice just to have it printed out so you know exactly what to do. So now I also include tweezers.
Oh yeah.
You also want to watch out for wildlife. Sherry, you had mentioned that with dogs, you want to be careful too, that they could start chasing or be chased by wildlife.
Right.
One of the
Keep
trails,
the dog on a leash.
Right. One of the trails I went hiking in recently in Montana when we were out there visiting, it has been shut down. It was shut down this past weekend because of bear activities. So always check the trailhead, to see if there's any type of wildlife warning. or flood warning or whatever, it's a good idea to check the trailhead whenever you hike.
And the
Anything else about safety?
Probably just to be aware of what poison ivy looks like. That's a picture of my daughter pointing at poison ivy that we spotted at one of our campsites. So we always talk about leaves of three, let it be. There's all different rhymes, but get to know, like, do an image search on Google, see what it looks like, and then just make sure you can identify it as you're walking on trails or even on your campsite, especially if you have kids, because you don't want them walking through it either.
Okay. Anything else about safety? You feel pretty safe now?
I do.
All right. Well, let's talk briefly, because we're running out of time, about what we like to do when we go camping. We like to go hiking. We love hiking. We like to ride our bikes, canoeing, kayaking. We like to find places where you can go zip lining, or go caving down in southern Indiana or Kentucky. I love to read, and read out loud, and we love to play board games together, because at home we're going to be playing our video games or watching TV, instead of playing board games together. But when you're camping, you're more likely to spend time together, play music with your friends, learn to play an instrument, visit local breweries, wineries, or farms. Those are some of the things I like to do. How about, what do you like to do when you have kids?
Oh, well, it's going to be a different experience if you're camping with kids. I know when I first camped, we were able to do everything we wanted to do and we could hit the trails, but now you're going to have to be a little bit more conscious about, and it depends on the ages that you have for your kids. So I've camped, my kids are older now, so it's a little bit more, we're able to do more things. But back then, if you've got toddlers, you have to really focus on safety and getting them prepared for the camping trip, whether that means like setting up the tent at your house, talking about how they're going to be around the fire, show them what poison ivy looks like, do tick inspections at night, so that kind of thing. And then once you get them involved in the planning, thinking about what they're going to eat, get in the list that their things they're going to bring, but bring fun things so that they're not going to miss their devices. If they're outdoors all day, bring some magnifying glasses so they can see things close up, a bug house so they can collect some bugs and see them. Of course, leave them there, don't take them home. Binoculars if you're going to be going birding. There's a lot of books that identify nature elements, whether that's animal tracks or leaves, different things that they're going to see. You can create your own games. Board games are great, but also scavenger hunts. So if you're taking a hike, turn it into a game, see who can spot a robin the first or a certain type of leaf of a tree. These are going to be lasting memories that they have. And of course, when they're older, you can do lots of things like kayaking and canoeing. It just gets more fun. In terms of just a few, we're kind of running out of time, but for naps and bedtime, it's just going to be difficult. It's hard to take a nap when you're at a campsite. So maybe just have quiet time. Just kind of lose the idea.
Okay, Sherry, let's talk about camping with your pets. What do we need to do? Watch out for?
Camping with your pets, be sure to bring a leash. I take water from home from mine because it can cause stomach upset. The last thing you want is a sick dog. Take their food, the glow sticks. I take those. Especially if you're going to be gone for a while, take your pet's health papers. You may need them.
That's really smart. We also make sure your campsite allows pets. I remember one time that was a scary situation I was in. Because some places don't. Okay.
Well,
So I'm sorry, what, Leah?
Oh, that's okay.
That's pretty much our presentation. We want to share some resources that we have for you today. Go ahead, Leah.
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming. We do have some lists from our catalog of resources that are available here, and we gave them the title Discover Camping. So Carrie's got one for camping activities. I have one for family camping, and Sherry has one for camping with pets. There's a few other lists that we found from other staff members for cooking and glamping. And right now, Carrie's just going to show you, if you want to search for a list in BiblioCommons, you can just do the hashtag IndiePL adults and camping, and that should bring up the list that we have created for you. We hope you enjoyed this program.
And
Anything else?
I'd just like to add one thing here at the end, that if any of you have any questions or comments, you can give us a call here at the library. We're here every day of the week. The number is 317-275-4100, and you can get through to any one of us whenever you would like to.
We always like to talk about camping.
Yes, we do. That's why we did this program, because we were in the winter and we all like to talk about camping.
All right.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.